What's up, Radiant Icons, and welcome back to Dare to Be Iconic, the podcast made for icons daring to be themselves. I'm your host, Amanda Policelli, and today's Tea Time session is all about a topic that I am really bad at, which is self compassion. Now, self compassion came up in last week's episode, Love Letters from Within Boundaries, Trauma, and Healing, and specifically the point of why do we not extend ourselves the same kindness that we extend to others, right? To our friends. And self compassion is all about making a U turn and putting that care and understanding that we put towards other people to ourselves when we're going through something traumatic or hard or challenging or whatever it is. That is what self compassion is. So, why can't we, and when I say we, I definitely mean why can't not give ourselves the self compassion or the love that we deserve? Well, we're talking all about that today in our Tea Time Sesh. But before we do that, make sure to connect with me on socials if you haven't done so already. And make sure to grab your copy of Break Up with the Past, Fall in Love with the Future, your 5-step guide in turning your pain into power. And all of that information can be found in the show notes below. So, are you ready, Radiant Icons? Because your Tea Time Sesh is starting now. All right, Radiant Icons. So, self compassion. Man, I really suck at being kind to myself and giving myself the love that I deserve. I know it's honestly very obvious that I am the hardest on myself. Um, and we all are, right? Like I mentioned last week, and like I mentioned in the intro to this episode today, that we are our own worst critic and we are the hardest on ourselves. And why can't we give ourselves that understanding and kindness that we deserve when we go through something traumatic or challenging? Why is it so hard for us to do that? So, I've had some time to reflect from last week's episode, or honestly, this whole month. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It's always been like, October is always a hard month for me. I don't know if it's like the October theory. I don't know if you guys heard about that on TikTok, but like apparently it's a thing, or like the October canon event thing that's also on TikTok. I don't know, but like October is always interesting for me, but like this October really just hit me in the face. Like some of the most exciting times of my life career-wise has been happening. And that's amazing and that's great. But then on the reverse side of it, it's also been some of the most challenging weeks of my life. I'm dealing with a lot of trauma and a lot of loss, a lot of grief, all within just a couple of days of each other. And it's a lot, right? And that idea of balancing both is tricky. And that's something that I'm still trying to come to terms with, right? But that's life, right? That's the beauty of it, right? There's good with the bad and vice versa. There's joy with pain, so on and so forth, which got me thinking about the self compassion topic, right? The last couple of weeks, I've been unnecessarily I've been unnecessarily hard on myself. And I don't know why. And I don't know if it's because all these different emotions that I'm trying to balance all at once has something to do with it, but like it really made me like step back and like reflect and be like, wow, like I really suck at being kind to myself. I really suck at giving myself the love that I deserve, which is so funny, right? It's like ironic because that's the first thing that I tell you guys, right? I'm like, give yourself the love you deserve. And I think at a certain point, I was so good at that. Like, I was like a student, you know what I mean? And then, like, this month happened, and I just said, F it. I'm really trying not to curse you guys, so we're gonna say F it. Um, so I said F it, and I just decided not to take any of my advice, which always ends up biting me in the booty. Like, let's be so for real, right? But it really got me thinking the last couple of days in particular, like, oh, like I had a wake up call being like, I really need to take control back of my life and not that I was like going off the rails or anything, but like I need to take control back in my life of like figuring out how to balance these emotions because this is the reality of the situation. There will always be joy and pain. Like there will always be good and bad in life, and you just need to figure out how to move forward with it, right? And like sometimes it's hard to just get up and keep moving because all you want to do is just like give up and just be like, I'm done. And like, we just can't let that happen. So I decided to start with this self compassion topic. I'm going to share 5 things that I wish I could go back and tell my younger self, specifically 19-year-old Amanda. I don't think it's any secret that the year 19, that chapter of my life, was a very traumatic, emotional, really, really challenging chapter of my life. I've spoken about it on the podcast. I've written about it in the blog, in the journal. Like it's not a secret, right? That 19 was a very hard year for me. And that's where this all stems from, honestly. I really do think so. So, I'm going to lead by example and do the really hard shit, which is talk about the 5 things I wish I would have told 19-year-old Amanda looking back now at 25 years old. So, let's do it, Radiant Icons. Let's get into the hard shit, shall we? That's what season 2 is all about. Okay. 1. Not everyone deserves your forgiveness. Now, I wish when I was 19, I had someone saying this to me. Your forgiveness is a privilege. You don't need to give it to anyone. This forgiveness thing is really overrated. It is a privilege for me to forgive you. I don't have to forgive you. And I wish that someone told me this at 19 because it took me a while to kind of stomach this idea of like having to forgive someone because I thought that was the right thing to do. I thought I had to just forgive everyone, right? Because that's the good thing to do. That's what you should do in life. But like in all reality, you don't owe anyone anything. You absolutely do not owe anyone anything, especially your forgiveness. If someone does you wrong, you do not have to forgive them. If they have hurt you so deeply, you don't have to forgive them. The only person that you do need to forgive is yourself. And I wish I would have told myself that. That would have saved me a whole bunch of feelings and a lot of trauma and emotional distress. But, like, honestly, if you're listening to this right now and you're like, "Oh, man, should I forgive that person?" You don't have to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. The only person you ever truly need to forgive in your life is yourself. So if you're going to forgive anyone, forgive yourself. Number 2, you are enough as is. You do not need to change yourself for anyone or anything. I think at that age, right? You're in college, or at least I was in college, right? And you're at this really weird, interesting time in your life. You're away from your parents for the first time. You're living on your own. You're living with roommates, these people that you don't know that well, but you kind of know, and it's like difficult, and you're trying to like adult for the first time, and you're in these relationships and you're being exposed to all these different environments and situations, and it's really easy to want to conform and to basically be what everyone else is being. But going back to the core message of Dare to Be Iconic, dare to be yourself. And at 19, I wish there was something like this where there was someone telling me that was my age of like, no, you don't need to be like everyone else. You truly are enough as is because you are uniquely iconic and beautiful. And it's just so magical. It's like literally the most powerful thing you can do in this world is dare to be yourself. And I think at that age specifically, it's really hard to like digest that and understand it because there's all these like other factors that kind of play into your psyche and your self-esteem, and it like kind of breaks you a bit, you know? Am I getting emotional again? Wow, season 2 is really out here making me reveal a lot of emotions about myself. Um but like that was something I struggled with for so much, you guys. And you would think now, like 7 years later, being 25 years old, that this you are enough thing wouldn't come back up in my life. But it does. Like I mentioned in episode 2, how to pivot while staying iconic. Like that's a deep rooted insecurity of mine. Like, am I ever going to be enough? It comes up in certain situations again because I'm brought automatically back to 19-year-old Amanda. And then if we go even deeper, that's like sixth grade Amanda, right? And then if we go even deeper to that, that's like first grade Amanda, where I truly never felt like I belonged and I never thought I was enough. That insecurity and that self-doubt, right? It like it grows and it sprouts up and it just keeps going and going and going until it almost feels suffocating, you know? And it's not a fun feeling. And I just wish I could tell 19-year-old Amanda that just because there's all these other things going on and you may feel pressure to want to change parts of your personality or parts of how you dress or like anything, you don't need to, because there is so much power in just being yourself, and you are enough as is. All right. Number 3, nothing or no one can define you. You can only define yourself. I think specifically with this one, it comes down to labels. Going back to what we just talked about, when you're at that age, that very prime age of just starting adulthood, you're kind of pushed into that world. Just, okay, here you go, like figure it out. They kind of like throw you in the deep end and hope you like know how to swim so you don't drown. That's kind of how I think of this like whole concept of like going to college at 18, 19 years old and just trying to figure it out and trying to survive, right? Because it's like they hold your hand all the way up until you're 18 and they're kind of like, ah, there you go, have fun, figure it out, do all these things for the first time. And you're like, oh my God, like, what do I do? Which goes down to like, when you're in those types of environments, right? In college specifically, I'm going to talk about, like there's so many labels that people love to put on you to define you, whether it's your relationship status, your sexuality, your weight, like what major you are. Like people automatically classify you and label you into these like little boxes of who and what you should be, which I guess also goes back to that thing of like just not feeling like I was enough because people kept trying to put me in boxes and label me into these things that I didn't associate myself with. People just tried to keep like putting me in these boxes and these ideas of who they thought I was. And at a point, I just accepted it and just let what these people were classifying me as or whatever, and just like started believing it as my own narrative, which I mean obviously we saw when I spoke about getting broken up with that letter in the box, right? Like I let that define my life for about 2 months until I was like, whoa, we need to stop. Like I don't want to live like this anymore. And just always going back to this common thing that has always been in my life of like people trying to define me. I wish at 19 I was able to give myself so much love and understanding when I was in that very confusing area of trying to figure it out and constantly failing. And we all know I hate failing. But like at that age, you fail a lot. Like you fail a lot. And I think for me personally, it always came down to I was failing because I either didn't feel like I was enough or I was trying to be someone that I wasn't. I was trying to conform to these labels that people were trying to define me as. And I think we've all seen the magic and the power of leaning into who you are so unapologetically and so boldly, right? Like, it is an amazing thing to lean into every unique aspect that makes you you. And when you try to be something that you're not, it's not going to work out in your favor because it's not staying true to you. I didn't really realize how all these lessons all came back to the core foundation of Dare to Be Iconic. That's actually kind of wild when you think of it. Like, I didn't actually didn't realize it. The more I talk about it out loud, the more I fully truly realize the power of the message of Dare to Be Iconic. But like truly, like all these things that I wish I told myself when I was younger all comes down to this core messaging of I wish I just would have dared to be myself because there is so much magic and power in it. And to be fair, I didn't know who I was Because one, I didn't take the time to truly get to know myself. Two, I kept trying to be all these different things other than myself. And three, I just didn't love myself enough. When I look back at college Amanda to now, like 25-year-old Amanda, looking back at college Amanda, specifically at 19, 20, I don't recognize her. And it's not because I'm ashamed of her or anything. I'm still so proud of her because I see the strength that it took to overcome a lot of hurdles and challenges and like figuring it out. 19-year-old Amanda dealt with a lot of shit and she came out on the other side. Maybe not glowing, like like let's be real, like maybe it wasn't glowing, but like she came out on the other side and she survived, right? That seed of turning her pain into power happened at 19. It happened then. All these things that I wish I would have told myself, and I know we're not even like done with the list yet, but they all come down to like, I wish I just loved myself a little bit more. I wish I gave myself the grace that I gave other people back then, and I wish I was just a little bit more understanding. I know why I was so hard on myself. It was because I didn't know how to love myself properly. And I think when it comes to this whole concept of self compassion, we need to start building it up by learning how to love ourselves. And in order to love ourselves and to start that process, we need to just shed all these expectations of what society wants us to be, what other people want us to be, and we just need to be who we want to be and who we are. And we need to lean into that, and we need to just dare to be who we are. Because that is what makes us so uniquely iconic. And that's the first step to building self compassion, I think. I didn't really realize that until now. And going on that, the next thing I wish I would have told myself is that your boundaries are not less than because someone doesn't understand or respect them. Boundaries truly are an act of self compassion, and you know what's right for you. And if someone disrespects that, if someone makes you feel stupid for a decision that is right for you, they are not meant to be in your life. And this goes back to I wish I loved myself a little bit more and I wish I knew myself a little bit more. But like at that point in time, I just like dealt with it. I just said, "Oh, okay, well then maybe it was stupid because I was naive and young." And I was like, oh, "Okay, well, maybe that's not the right boundary. Maybe I need to try something different then." That's a lie. I knew what was right for me, and I just started bending over backwards and losing myself in the process. I wish I had someone that I could look to at that time and have that like realization moment of like, you know what's right for you, and if someone makes you feel inferior because of that, they need to get the hell out of your life. They are not meant to be in your life, and you need to walk away, or you need to kick them out the damn door. Exactly like that. You need to kick them out the damn door because they don't deserve you, period. And the last thing I wish I told myself, and I don't tell myself this often, but especially back then, 19-year-old Amanda needed to hear that she was proud of herself. I think she took a lot of unnecessary shit and dealt with it by herself. And I don't think she took the time to truly, truly realize how powerful and strong she was. And I'm proud of her for that. I'm proud of her for coming out on the other side stronger, even if she didn't see it back then. I'm proud of her for figuring it out as much as she can and doing what she needed to do to take care of herself. I think that that last thing, right, for self compassion is realizing how far you've come, right? I think in order to start giving yourself the love you deserve and having that understanding is you need to have that self-awareness of how far you've come. And 19-year-old Amanda truly would not have even imagined in a million years how her life would turn out 7 years later. So those are the 5 things I would have told 19-year-old Amanda to start giving myself the love that I truly do deserve, and that understanding that I so easily give out to other people. But you know what? We all do it, and I know I'm not alone in it. So now let's go now into the present time. Let's talk about how you can give yourself or build self compassion on the daily. Now, the first thing I think in order to build self compassion is to start with mindful self talk. So, to reframe your mindset and retrain your brain to start avoiding those harsh judgments, those harsh conversations, those harsh things you say about yourself. Let's reframe your mindset. Let's retrain your brain to start thinking into a more positive mindset, to have that gentle encouragement. Just be kinder and be nicer to yourself. And the first thing we can do is, okay, let's be a little bit more intentional and mindful with the way we talk to ourselves. And a great tip is to think about it as in you're talking to your best friend, right? We will never say half of the mean stuff that we say to ourselves to our best friends. So if that helps you reframe your mindset and retrain your brain into having that more gentle and encouraging conversation with yourself, then do that. Now, my second tip on how to build self-compassion on the daily is journal prompts. You guys know I love a good journal and I love a good guided journal. Specifically, there is a prompt in my journal, Break Up with the Past, Fall in Love with the Future, that I think is so prevalent to this concept of self compassion. And it's in step 3 of the journal because there are 5 steps on turning your pain into power. There's little exercises within each step. So this one is in step 3 of the 5-part process, and it's called Dare to Love, a letter to your iconic future self. Give yourself the love you genuinely deserve. Dare to love the incredible person you are becoming, and let this love letter be a testament to the unwavering self love you cultivate on your transformative journey. Now, I think there is something so beautiful with writing down all your emotions, feelings, and thoughts. And I think there's something even more beautiful about writing that in a love letter to yourself. And maybe I'm biased because you know how I love to reclaim letters. And I think writing a love letter to yourself not only is a big theme of Dare to Be Iconic, but I think is, again, just so magical and beautiful because you're truly taking that concept of self compassion, which is to give yourself the love you deserve and that kindness that you deserve that you so willingly give to others. Like, let's pour it back into ourselves. And by writing a love letter to yourself, it allows you to have that vital self reflection that you need in order to have self compassion for yourself. And I think that's beautiful. So I think a guided journal and writing love letters to yourself is what we need to do to start building self compassion. And the third way on how you can build self compassion on the daily is just embracing your imperfections. We are all imperfectly iconic. And I know I mentioned that a lot in season 1, specifically episode 3, How to Be an Icon. But there is just so much beauty in embracing the messiness in life and the imperfections that we have, because that's what makes us uniquely iconic. That's what makes us an icon. And by us being so accepting of the things that aren't perfect allows us to be kind to ourselves, allows us to love ourselves, right? Because we're loving every part of ourselves, even the imperfections, even the not so pretty parts of ourselves. We learn to love them. And I think those are always going to be the hardest parts to love, right? Like, it's not going to be easy for us to love the unhealed parts of us. It's not going to be easy to love our flaws. It's not going to be easy to love, the stuff that we don't want to show anyone else. Like, it's not easy to love those not so shiny, not so pretty, not so perfect parts of ourselves. But once we challenge ourselves to start loving those parts of us, then truly no one or thing can define us, can write our story, can tell us who we are because we love ourselves unapologetically and wholeheartedly. All right, Radiant Icons, that is your tea time sesh for today. Now let's get into the Dare to Be Iconic hotline. Hey, Amanda, what if I feel like I made too many mistakes in my past? How can I show myself compassion when I feel so much regret? Well, I would tell you that you're not alone in this thought process. Everything that I said in those 5 things I wish I would have told my younger self at 19 is all rooted in regret. I regret a lot of things at 19. I wish I would have stood firmer in my boundaries. I wish I wouldn't have let other people define me. I wish I would have listened to my gut. I wish a lot of things, and I regret a lot of things at that time. And I try not to think about it too much because I know it's not healthy, but I would be lying to you if I told you that this feeling that you described right here is like non existent, because it's valid and you're not alone in it. And I wish someone else would have told me the same thing. So I'm telling you that as well. Like, you're not alone in this. because I feel this. I'm currently going through it, and I've been going through it for 7 years of my life, and it's not easy. And the first thing I would tell you that I've learned is that there's no such thing as too many mistakes. There is nothing that you cannot overcome, there is nothing that you cannot bounce back from. The beauty about life is that we can start over so many times. And the beauty with mistakes is that we learn from them, even if we don't want to, but we learn from them. But there's no such thing as having too many. There's no such thing as that. Now, when it comes to regret, that's a trickier one, right? Like regret and self compassion, it's like the devil and the angel, right? Regret is a very heavy emotion that a lot of people don't talk about. And it's hard. It's hard to overcome because sometimes it feels like you're suffocating. Sometimes it feels like you're drowning from it. Like, I'm gonna be so for real. Like, sometimes that's what it feels like living with regret because it almost feels like guilt. You're guilty of something that you shouldn't be, right? And guilt is also very heavy. And they're like best friends, regret and guilt. Like, they go hand in hand, skipping down the neighborhood. And it's annoying. It's really, truly annoying because I'm just trying to live my life while regret and guilt are having a party. And I don't want that. But you know what? That's the reality of the situation. I need to learn how to love myself, even with the guilt and regret that I have deep down in my heart. But I need to reframe my mindset and retrain my brain to be kinder to myself and to be nicer to myself when that regret creeps in, when that guilt creeps in, when they all creep in, honestly. Like, they all just come together. Like, I need to train my brain and reframe my mindset and have that mindful self-talk that we just spoke about when these heavy dark emotions come up. And it's hard and it's not going to be easy, but I know you can do it. And we're doing it together. You are not alone in it. Trust me. I got you. I'm right there with you. Hey, Random, how do I stay consistent with self compassion, especially on hard days? I think when it comes to building self compassion and being consistent with it, it's all about accountability and incorporating it into your daily routine like you would when you add any other new habit into your routine. So, for instance, if you had done the 75 soft or if you did the Daring to Be Confident challenge with me, right? They were all new habits that we were incorporating into our routines that we were challenging ourselves to do for a certain amount of time. And, we were holding ourselves accountable, whether it was with our iconic besties, with the internet, like by sharing our journey, or like writing it down in a tracker, right? Like, we were holding ourselves accountable through that entire journey. And that's the same concept with self compassion. So start a little like 15-day self compassion challenge. And maybe it's like, oh, for 5 minutes a day, I do journal prompts. For 10 minutes a day, I like do affirmations, or maybe I do like some mindful self-talk exercises, or like create a self-care ritual, right? That I'm incorporating into my routine. Like, whatever it is, it comes down to accountability and just incorporating it into your routine like you would any other habit. That is your episode today, Radiant Icons. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a rating, a review, to subscribe, to share it with your friends, to share it with anyone and everyone, because we love more Radiant Icons in our iconic community of ours. And yes, I never get tired of saying that spiel because I just love it. So, but like, honestly, subscribe, share it with your friends. Let me know what you think of this episode. It was a little bit different, but like, I enjoyed it. I think it was very therapeutic in a sense. I feel like, honestly, season 2 has been very therapeutic. I mean, season 1 was as well. Like, don't get me wrong, but like, season 2, we're having a lot of realizations live on air while we're recording it. And half the time, I don't edit them out because that's the magic in it. That is the magic. Honest, real, raw, vulnerable. That's Dare to Be Iconic for you. But like, honestly, this episode, I had a lot of epiphany moments. And I hope that these epiphany moments that I had, or the advice that I shared of what works for me, can be helpful for you on this journey of learning how to build self compassion and giving yourself the love and kindness that you deserve, because we truly do deserve the best. But you guys, let's talk about next week real quick because I am so excited to be welcoming our first everyday icon for season 2, my girl Agatha, F1 with the twist. We're talking to her about her motorsports journey, and her Dare to Be iconic origin story. Agatha is one of the first radiant icons. And she wrote this beautiful LinkedIn piece of how Dare to Be Iconic has changed her life. So I thought, you know what? For season two, there is no one better to bring back everyday icon than my girl Agatha. So we're talking about all things Dare to Be Iconic and how Dare to Be Iconic has influenced her life and the impact it has made. And I think it's so important for the Radiant Icon community to hear not only my story, right, and things that I learned on this Dare to Be Iconic journey, but from other Radiant Icons and how Dare to Be Iconic has impacted their life and what their origin story is. And I just love it. So I'm so excited to share Agatha's DTBI origin story. And if you guys want to share your origin story with me, make sure to DM me. I love hearing them. It truly makes my day. So, anyway, I'm going to go, but I will talk to you guys next week. Remember, Radiant Icons, dare to be iconic. Bye.